George truly did believe in us, and we also hit it off as friends. You know what I mean? We had the same humor and the same lack of respect of the people around us. But at one point, George was leaving A&M and then was going to come to California to work for Rick Rubin. And, you know, we were under the auspice this whole time that he was going to sign us and we were going to make this first record. When you're a kid, 6 months seems like
12
an
years.
eternity. You know what I mean? So nothing is happening. And then we're like, well, George, you know, we booked a showcase in New York at CBGB's. And, you know, and we said, look, we love you, but if something else comes along, we can't wait forever for you. And George was like, okay, buddy, you know, and we went to New York for like the week. We played a show on the way up. We made like DC. We made like $500. So that back then,
$500. We didn't make $500. It was like 50.
We made $50.
Basically, Dad funded the tour.
Take a zero off. Well, we played some other show, I thought, like in Chattanooga.
We played DC. Then we drove up to Boston. There was no PA, so we didn't.
That
play
was that
show. And so we couldn't play. We didn't get paid.
We
drove to New York, and then Albany was the last show
that was the same trip.
Yeah, they paid us.
So George, we were like, we have some A&R people coming to the show at CBGB's tonight.
I invited people.
He invited people, and knowing we had also spent 3 or 4 days in New York sleeping on the floor of where you stayed. Rich didn't behave the way the others did. I don't even think we had a second guitarist at the time. We just were completely shit-faced the whole time we were there. Completely drunk.
But I was like 14. I mean, I was 15 or 16.
Running around the city, complete maniacs. And the show was at CBGB's. And by the time we did the show, it was horrible. It was horrible in any era, any group. I mean, we just were horrible. And George was like, okay, can we get back to the plan? And Peter Hallsapple was there from the DBs.
That's right.
A great songwriter, fantastic, sort of, they would consider now a southern jangle pop indie band. And he came up to us even before you, and he was like, I can see in there, whatever you guys are doing, that it could be good.
What you're trying
but
to do,
tonight was not it. And we were like, fuck. So George was the only game in town after that.
Wasn't it an afternoon show?
No, it was
nighttime. But they were like,
I think the shiny pants, right? You got your new shiny pants for that.
I did have new shiny
from
pants.
Trash from Marvel or somewhere, or
Lip Service.
Lip Service, right?
Rich, tell us a funny story. Tell us a story about George.
There's a lot of funny stories about George, early days. I remember.
What about the food on the first album? Do you remember that?
I remember that, but I mean, early days.
I believe this.
I remember we were invited. George's like, you know, you can stay with me at my house. My roommate's cool with it. His roommate was a massive manager named Peter Mensch, and he had these two Shar-Pei, like really kind of intense dogs.
Chinese fighting dogs?
Chinese fighting dogs. And so we were all sleeping on Mensch's floor, but George didn't tell him. And he walked, I was in his shower. And Peter Mensch comes walking in, just like looking around like this, like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, we're friends with George. He's like, fuck you, George.
That's why he never wanted to manage us.
That's why he never wanted to manage us. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
George doesn't like this story because George Drakoulias, he's of Greek descent, and it's an ancient culture. They pride themselves on their hospitality. They pride themselves, you know, you come out, the Greek table is a bountiful table for guests and family alike. And when I'm safe to say that, am I not? But when we made Shake Your Money Maker, we didn't have any money, and we never had any food. And George never bought us any food. And he would get like, okay, go to a chicken place, and there would be like 4 pieces of fried chicken and some French fries, and George would have 3 pieces of chicken, and then let us all have a bite off of one, and then a fry, and then he would get a big gulp, and that's what we shared for a drink. And that's fucking
I don't
true.
believe it. I
That's
don't believe it.
completely true.
I remember we used to drive in the morning. We'd stop somewhere. We'd stop.
No,
like
you did. You had
You were in the
money.
van. You
a
had the van.
job.
You were in the van.
I was living at home.
Not you. No, we
But
used to
you,
go
you,
in
you did take us once, maybe, to get some Slurpees.
Slurpee,
Remember that? Like,
slush
wow,
puppies, slush puppies.
Never had any food. I mean, I don't care now. I mean, it was part of being cool at the time, not eating. We didn't have money for drugs or alcohol or food.
George, were you involved in them changing the name?
Yes.
I think the sound had changed, and the band had changed. We were like, let's make a fresh start. And
We were a little reticent at first.
yeah,
And I remember you had Peter Mensch call me on the phone. He was like, you got to change your name. And we were like, what
Did you
about our
f-
fans?
Why did you feel that there was an intimacy between them, that he had seen Rich in his shower?
they saw him naked. So
Or was it that Rich was very clean?
right.
He would talk to me. But I remember you convinced me because we were like, what about our fans? And you're like, you got 12 of them.
Right. I thought it was like a
Relax.
fresh start and just keep it simple.
I think I did.
Yeah.
But we kept the E in it.
Right,
just
which
to-
is cool.
But I remember we were opening for the Dirt Daubers in Rome, Georgia. And we were
No,
all...
no, that's not that was a different band. That was a blues band. We weren't opening. This is the story. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you were.
We were in Rome.
We were in Rome, Georgia.
All right,
That's
I
for
was
sure
right.
because
one
Rich
time.
went to boarding school there. We had made Shake Your Money Maker.
Yeah.
It was coming out. We had a gig at a club in Rome, Georgia. We drove up there. We were dressed like the Black Crows. That day on the drive to this gig, we said, all right, we're the Black Crows. From here out, we're the Black Crows, right? Everyone in. We go to the gig. We do sound check. A band opens for us. It was a dad and his daughter and a son, and they were a family band with like a cousin too. And I always remember we were like, okay, I don't know if it was a Christian thing. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But we went down the street to get something to eat or go to a bar or something, and we came back and we played fucking Shake Your Money Maker, and like the only people in the club was the dad and the family band eating Subway sandwiches while we played. So it's like jealous, and get and they were like eating Subway sandwiches, 4 people. The night we changed our name, and then we played in that club. And believe it or not, they didn't want to pay us.
It's crazy.